Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare-rama, Hare-rama, Rama-rama, Hare-hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Dobrodošli na še enem nedeljskem srečanju, ki smo ga začeli z lepimi bhajani pod vodstvom Bhaktin Špele. Pomagala sta ji pa Jagat Prasu in Mahatmananda Prabhu. Zdaj za tiste, ki ste danes prvič, da vam povem, nedeljski program poteka, da po teh bhajanih sledi predavanje, potem imamo duhovni ples, vegetarijansko pojedino in okoli 7 ure še malo petja v programu Plus. Danes pa nas bo naše predavanje vodil njegova svetost Pradananda Swami z naslovom Prepustite se duhovni energiji. Bazirala bo na verzu 9.13 iz Bhagavad Gite, tako da najbolj že se prepustimo predavanju. Hare Krišna. Še to sem pozabila povedati, da bo pa predavanje v angleščini, tako da tisti, ki rabite prevod, dobite slušalke pri dol Chandra Prabhuju, prevajala bo pa Gora Chandrana na Mateči.
I would like to add a verse to the Bhagavad Gita. I don't know how appropriate. Maybe not. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namo
Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine.
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvise Sashunyavadi Satyajade Satarine.
Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vachatyade Shatarine.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jayam Vishnupad Paramhamsa Prabhakacharya Asadhara Situshi Shriman, His Divine Grace Shalasi Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande,
Hare Hare Bol.
Slava Zavrani Bhakti,
Hare Krishna.
Slava Shri Guru Shri Gurangi. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Prajarane Nirvishesha Shinivani Paskatiyade Siddharne. Anyhow, you can put 13 on the board, actually. Om Agyanatvanandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Prajana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakans Vitam Cha Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishubhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Turvyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhavacha Patiranam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I'm going to read from the Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 9, the most confidential knowledge, text number 13. Mahatmanastu mam parata Daivim prakritim ashritya Vajanyanya manaso Gyatva bhutadem avyayam. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. Please repeat. O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. Prabhupada's purport. In this verse, the description of the Mahatma is clearly given. The first sign of the Mahatma is already situated in the divine nature. He's not under the control of material nature. And how is this affected? That is explained in the 7th chapter. One who surrenders unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, at once become freed from the control of material nature. That is the qualification. One can become free from the control of material nature as soon as he surrenders his soul to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the preliminary formula. Being marginal potency, as soon as the living entity is freed from the control of material nature, he is put under the guidance of the spiritual nature. The guidance of the spiritual nature is called Daivi Prakriti, divine nature. So when one is promoted in that way, by surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one attains to the stage of great soul, Mahatma. The Mahatma does not divert his attention to anything outside Krishna. He knows, because he knows perfectly well that Krishna is the original Supreme Person, the cause of all causes. There is no doubt about it. Such a Mahatma or great soul develops through association with other Mahatmas, pure devotees. Pure devotees are not even attracted by Krishna's other features, such as the four-armed Mahavishnu. They are simply attracted by the two-armed form of Krishna. They are not attracted to other features of Krishna, nor are they concerned with any form of a demigod or human being. They meditate only upon Krishna and Krishna consciousness. They are always engaged in the unswerving service to the Lord in Krishna consciousness. So the text again. Mahatmano sumam parta daivim prakritim ashritya buddhananya manaso gyatva bhutadam avyam. O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutaya Srimate Bhakti-vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswatunde Ve Gauravani Vacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskyadyade Siddharane. So for those who haven't read the Bhagavad Gita has 700 verses, and it was spoken by Lord Krishna to Arjuna 5,000 years ago on a battlefield. And according to the Bhagavad Gita contains the very essence of all the Vedic literature. And the Vedic literature is a series of scriptures, spoken, sometimes written, which are approximately 1 billion verses. So you get the whole 1 billion verses in 700 verses. And if you can't read 700 verses, it's too much. They're all summarized in the middle 6 chapters. There are 18 chapters, so the middle 6 chapters gives the very essence of the Bhagavad Gita. And if you don't have time to read the middle 6 chapters, it's all explained in this chapter. So if you understand this chapter, then you've understood 1 billion verses in the Vedic literature. And if you don't have time to read the whole chapter, you can just read the last verse, and that summarizes it all. And if you don't have time to read the last verse, then just chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, hare-rama, hare-rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If you don't have time to do that, just say Hare Krishna. Any questions? So Bhagavad Gita actually deals with a good number of 5 different topics, namely Ishvara, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Who is God? Who is the Supreme? And Jiva, who are we, the soul, the spiritual being? And then it also deals with Prakriti. Prakriti, if you don't know what it is, just look around you. This material nature is all Prakriti, the material energy. And it deals with time. And if you don't know what time is, just look in the mirror and time will tell you. You'll be able to see time manifested. And then we have the last but not least, we have karma. Karma is, according to Bhagavad Gita, we're all spiritual beings who are living a material existence. And we're living a material existence. That living the material existence is called our karma. We're living at our karma. It's like you go to a movie theater and there are 5 different movies playing. And you get to choose which movie you want to go and see. The horror movie, the comedy, the romance, the adventure movie, or whatever. And then you go into that movie and you watch the whole movie. And afterwards you come out and you think, I've learned absolutely nothing by watching this movie. But anyhow, I just spent my time watching it. So that's material existence for most people. They want to have a life of comedy, and after the life of comedy, they come back in the next life for a life of adventure, and then romance, and then finally they get a life of lamentation. Why to waste so much time watching these foolish movies? And then they become self-realized. So that's what this is all about. Bhagavad Gita is to tell us how to live our life in such a way as to find out who actually is the Supreme that we're looking for. Just like one of my godbrothers, his son, was interested in music. Rock bands specifically. Although he's a devotee, but when he was younger he was interested. So there was one group called the Supremes, and he had a poster on his wall of them, and underneath it said the Supremes. Of course, he had another picture, probably of Radha and Krishna, but he had 2, in his life at least, there were 2 competing Supremes. One the band called the Supremes, and the other was Radha and Krishna. So, hopefully now he chose the right Supremes. So that's what material life is meant for, to choose which we want to take as supreme. Everyone has their supreme. Srila Prabhupada was in Moscow one time. Prabhupada always wanted to go to Moscow, to the communist countries. Because in one sense, the communist countries at that time were very ripe for Krishna consciousness. Because as they say in English, if you don't have anything, you don't have anything to lose. So, if you have nothing in the material world, you become quite detached from it. Just like I heard there's a new philosophy propounded by a group of people that by 1930, well, all of us will have nothing and we'll be happy. That's also our philosophy. We'll realize everything belongs to Krishna and then we'll actually become happy. Of course, I think the people propounding that, the philosophy I mentioned, don't have exactly the same idea in mind. But at least that's our idea. That everything actually belongs to Krishna because He's the Supreme. Now, if we don't accept Krishna as the Supreme, and our process is a process of understanding how Krishna is the Supreme, and therefore in the meantime we may accept so many other personalities as the Supreme. Just like sometimes we find devotees that have headsets on, and we're assuming they're listening to Prabhupada's lectures or some devotional music, and then somehow or another the headphone slips a little bit and you hear, the Rolling Stones. So we've been brought up in a certain way, and naturally we have a certain attachment to certain people as being, we look up to as our supreme. or close to the Supreme. So, Prabhupada was speaking to Professor Katarsky at the University of Moscow because he had invited Prabhupada to come to Russia at that time. And Russia was a very poor place. And somehow or another, Prabhupada was trying to explain to Professor Katarsky our philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada tried to explain reincarnation, that the body's changing, but the soul is always the same. And Professor Katarsky looked at him like he was coming from Mars rather than India. And then Prabhupada tried to explain about Varnashram, that there should be an intelligent class of people who actually lead society. And living in a communist country like Russia at that time, Professor Katarsky thought that everyone was the same. Everyone was equally as foolish as he was. Bless his heart. In any case, Prabhupada finally gave him a philosophy that he could understand. He said, actually, your philosophy and our philosophy are exactly the same. Not exactly the same, but they're the same. That everyone has to choose a leader. That you've chosen Lenin as your leader, and we've chosen Krishna as our leader. So you're following Lenin, and wherever Lenin goes, that's where you're going to go. And we're following Krishna, and wherever Krishna goes, that's where we're going to go. And then Prabhupada asked Professor Katarsky, can you get me a taxi? And Professor Katarsky said, no, I can't, sorry. He didn't even have the means to get Prabhupada a taxi. That was Russia and Moscow at that time. In any case, everyone needs a leader. Everyone has a leader, knowingly or unknowingly. Modern education is meant to convince us that the government is our leader. We should respect them and appreciate them and whatever else. They're trying to do that unsuccessfully in most places. But someone is always the leader, whether it's a rock musician or a movie star or a sports hero or someone. Nowadays, sometimes people appreciate their dog as their leader. As I mentioned, I saw on the internet that there's a class of people now in America, at least, I don't know if it's going to, of course, whatever happens in America, sometimes used to catch on around the world, who believe that they're dogs. They want to be dogs. Just like Prabhupada was giving a lecture at one university, and he mentioned that if you act like a dog, that's called karma, you act like a dog, then in the future life you may become a dog. So one student raised her hand and said, Swamiji, I want you to know, you say that if I act like a dog, I'll become a dog. But I just want you to know, I don't mind if I become a dog. As a matter of fact, I want to become a dog. So Prabhupada raised his hand and said, you have my blessings. So people are now dressing themselves up like dogs. According to the report, the man spent $15,000 to buy a dog suit. Complete dog suit. The only thing you could see of him was his eyes. Otherwise, he was completely covered by the dog food. And he only eats dog food. And he spends most of the day in the park playing with the other dogs. So he really wants to become a dog. And I'm sure Krishna will bless him. But the goal of human life is not to become a dog. And if you have to become a dog, at least become one in a place where they have good dog food. India is not such a good place for dogs. At least not in Vrindavan. In the cities, I think nowadays people have gotten to taking care of their dogs better, but in Vrindavan they throw rocks at the dog. So if you become a dog, don't become a dog in Vrindavan. Oh, anyhow, Vrindavan's not so bad. But in a normal village, don't become a dog. It's a very bad life. So here Krishna is trying to convince us that he's the Supreme. And that being the Supreme, he lives in a world which is quite different from our world. It's a world of he lives in the eternal world, where everyone is happy and blissful all the time. And everyone has complete consciousness, complete in the sense that they don't know everything, but at least their consciousness is so complete, they can relish happiness to practically an unlimited degree. Everything is, to them, is unlimitedly wonderful and always becoming more and more wonderful at every moment. It's kind of like what they're trying to portray in the movies, modern movies. We're living, the actual world that we're hankering for exists, but they're trying to make it into a 3D movie on this planet. But it's actually there in the spiritual world. So, Krishna says that he's God. And of course, people all think, well, he has a right to say he's God. Because nowadays you can say, if you imagine yourself to be anything, you can claim it. So Krishna in Bhagavad Gita spends his time trying to convince us that he's God. Why not? Let him think he's God. Just like one reporter went to one University of Oregon in America, in Portland, Oregon. And as I mentioned this before, he's, how much is 5'11" or 5'10"? It's around, how many centimeters is that? 170 centimeters or something? 180. So he's, of course they use inches there. So he said, if I believe myself to be a 6'10" woman, Chinese woman basketball player, would you believe me? He asked the students. And at least the ones that were on the video, they said, yes, if you sincerely believe you're a Chinese woman, 6'10" basketball player, sure, I'll accept that. So Krishna is spending 700 verses trying to convince us that he's God, so why not okay, you can be God, I'm God, you're God, everyone's God. But Krishna he's not so liberal. He's claiming he's the real God. So that's a little controversial. He's gone a little bit more extreme than most people accept nowadays. But anyhow, he's trying to convince us that he's God. Or at least we should accept that there is some God, that all the planets moving their orbits exactly on time are not by chance. The sun doesn't rise at an appointed time and set at an appointed time by chance. We don't eat food and we digest it. Hopefully we digest it and assimilate it. And the unwanted parts are eliminated. That Krishna has made such a fabulous machine that it comes in two forms. Of course, nowadays in America they have 72 forms it comes in. But here in Slovenia, I think they still accept two forms, male and female. Now, as I've said before, if the scientists can make a machine, a male machine and a female machine, and when they get together they make little machines, that would be a nice scientist. It would probably win him the Nobel Prize. He can make a male Rolls Royce and a female Rolls Royce. And when they get together, they make little Rolls Royces. And all you do is have to feed it a little gas and oil, and it grows up and becomes a big Rolls Royce. You can drive it around. Matter of fact, you could have a whole family of Rolls Royces. But can the scientists do that? I don't think so. But Krishna has made male machines and female machines, 8,400,000 species, and they make little machines that grow up to become big machines and keep on making more machines. So who's the greatest scientist? Now, if we don't believe that there are male and female machines, and I guess you can go to America and you can tell people you're a 6'10" Chinese basketball player. But anyhow, we have faith that Krishna has actually made these machines. Otherwise, who made it? The only historical record of a man making a machine is not really a historical record. It was a science fiction movie called Frankenstein. Apart from that, there's no record of anyone making a machine that came to life and made other machines especially. So with a little intelligence we can understand, first of all, that we're eternal. Our bodies are not, but we're eternal. The person who's aware of all these bodies, and that there's a person, a supreme person, who's created this wonderful playground for us to play around it. With all the other little kids we're playing around with, or sometimes they're not they're not so nice to us. Anyhow, we decide to play in the playground with all these other kids, and sometimes we get smacked around in the playground. Sometimes we smack other people around the playground. If you want to play in the playground, then you have to play by the rules. But Krishna has made it for us because we want to, but here Krishna is offering us an opportunity to come under the internal energy of Krishna, the Daivi Prakriti. And it doesn't require a whole lot of different activities. Krishna in the next verse will say, Satatam kirtayantamam yatantastrādrida namasyantastamam bhakta nityukta upasate. Always chanting my glories. In other words, the first thing is we have to hear that we're eternal. That's part of Krishna's glories, because all of us are part of Krishna's glories. Everyone is a unique spirit soul with our own unique qualities, all expansions of God or Krishna, and we all have our own glories. Just like we read in our books about, for instance, here is Mother Jasoda and Krishna. So every one of us has some personal relation with Krishna, which is glorious. And that relationship is eternal. It's even going on now as we speak, because Krishna has never left us. Although we've forgotten about him, he's still in our heart, trying to guide us back to him, or let us play around in the playground, called material energy. So we hear about Mother Jasoda, and we think it's very nice, it's glorious, these activities Krishna has with his devotees. So also Krishna's activities with every living entity is also glorious. So we can hear about it, and therefore gradually we'll be able to see how actually even this material world is part of Krishna's activities, and that there's another world, a spiritual world, where the activities are even sweeter than they are here. And the result of that is that we'll become interested in doing things which will actually be pleasing to Krishna and revive our natural loving relationship with Krishna, rather than compete with Krishna to become a 6'10" Chinese female Chinese basketball player when you're only 5'10" and you're a male and you're from America. Rather than doing that, to actually try to have a nice relationship with Krishna, a pleasing relationship, because he's actually a nice person. Although he's gotten a very bad reputation lately, everyone's criticizing him for everything that happens. But actually, he's not responsible for it. Just like there was one rabbi, he wrote a book, Why Bad Things Happen to Good People. So his conclusion is, or was, that God is actually a nice person. But he's become so old, he's become senile. And therefore he can't keep the material world together anymore. He's trying to clutch it, but he has, he's shaking due to arthritis. So he just can't keep things together. But there's a rumor, however true or false it may be according to the book, that God is thinking about retiring and allowing some other younger angel to take over, and maybe things will go better than they are now. But we understand that Krishna is a person, he never grows old, he's eternally youthful, he's eternally all attractive. But we have to develop some desire to meet him. We can't force him to reveal himself, because that's not our relation with him. Our normal relation is that of loving exchanges. We love him and he loves us. We want to serve him and he wants to serve us. But if we arrogantly demand that he reveal himself, it's not the right loving reciprocation. Otherwise, if he revealed himself, we'd be very disappointed if we didn't love Krishna, because then we find out that we can't compete with him. So if we want to compete with God, he can't reveal himself. But if we want to follow Krishna and serve him and love him, then he can reveal himself and properly love us also in a loving relationship. So that's what Bhagavad Gita is about, so that we can become a little bit more determined to do what he wants us to do, so he can reveal himself to us. And then when he does, nityukta upasate, then we'll see how wonderful Krishna is, how beautiful he is, how loving he is, how affectionate he is, and then we'll fall in love with him also. And then we'll always want to have remain in our relation with him, and nothing will be able to deviate ourselves from such a relationship. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? Yes.
Thank you for inspiring lecture. I would just like to ask, when you mentioned about that we are prone to accept other leaders than Krishna, so how can we recognize that we are somehow or other accepting some leader beside Krishna, and how to actually recognize that?
Well, for instance, did your mother ever tell you to do something?
Yeah.
Do you ever remember what your mother told you to do? Like, wash your hands. Did your mother ever tell you to wash your hands before you eat?
I think so.
Do you wash your hands before you eat?
Yeah.
Do you remember your mother telling you that? So you're serving your mother. She was your leader. So Krishna also wants you to wash your hands. So your mother was a representative of Krishna. Unknowingly, Krishna in her heart was guiding her. So you just have to remember, my mother was a representative of Krishna. Krishna in her heart told her to tell me to wash my hands. So then you can be grateful to Krishna, to your mother, as being an instrument for Krishna. So then you can see your mother in relation to Krishna as your authority. Otherwise, we may just think, Mom told me to do it, maybe I shouldn't do it. No. Your mom told you to do it because Krishna told her to do it. Anything else? Actually, this is probably the first time I ever was 2 minutes early. Oh, there it goes. Okay. This clock is always wrong, so can't believe everything you see. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande.
Les pred božanstvi. Kdo ga bo vodil?
Shishi Panch Tattva ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bo. Kiva Jayo Jayo, Gaura Chander, Harati Koshoba. Bajayo Jayo Gaurachande Arati Koshoba Janavitatavane Jagamanaloba Dakine Nitachan Bamegadadara Nikate Advaita Shrini Vasa Chatradhara Vasiyache Gaurachant Ratna Simhasane Arati Korena Brahma Adi Devagane Rajini Vadana Ujvala Tattva ki Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Jayo Panchatattva, Jayo Panchatattva, Jayo Panchatattva, Jayo Panchatattva. Jayo Gauranitai, 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 Jayo Gauranitai. Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Shishi Panchtattva ki jai, Shishi Gorita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Take over, Premanande.
Jam Vishnupad Pranam Sapraprajikacharya Shrutra Shata Shri Shri Mat Shri Bhai Charaninda Bhaktivedanta Swam Haraj Shri Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavindi ki jai, Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai, Prem Se Ho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Se Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kundra Dakanta Giri Govardhan ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Saslas Brahman Bhakti Hare Krishna, Saslas Brahman Bhakti Hare Krishna, Saslas Brahman Bhakti Hare Krishna, Saslava Shri Guru Shri Gaurangi, Saslava Shri Prabhupada.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Pralada Lada Daine. Hiranyakashipur Vakshaha. Hiranyakashipur Vakshaha. Shilatangana Kalaye. Shilatangana Kalaye. Ito Nrsimha Parato Nrsimho. Ito Nrsimha Parato Nrsimho. Yato Yato Yamitato Nrsimha. Yato Yato Yamitato Nrsimha. Vahe Nrsimha Hrida Ye Nrsimha. Vahe Nrsimha Hrida Ye Nrsimha. Narasimhamadim Sharanam Prapadye. Narasimhamadim Sharanam Prapadye. Tava Kara Kamalavare Naka Advaita Shringa Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubinga Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे केशवधृता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे सिंहदेव भगवान व्रत महाराज की गौर प्रेमानंद
se preliva preveša v drugo polovico, zadnjo polovico. Sledil bo prasada in potem ob 7 še program plus. Ampak predtem pa še nekaj obvestil. V petek je v letošnjem letu prva pojavitev od članov naše Panča Tatve in sicer praznujemo pojavitev še Advaita Acharye. Program se bo začel nekje okoli 5. ure, kako točno bo pa program potekal, pa boste sledili na obvestilom po naših rednih kanalih. V začetku meseca sta se Gopal in Primiša po milosti njegove božanske milosti Radha Samija Maharaje prerodila v Gopal Chandra Daso in Prema Lato Devi Dasi. Zaželimo jim vse dobro na njuni duhovni poti in da bo ta lepo služila svojega duhovnega učitelja in tudi v bistvu njihove starše in nasploh družino Mihalič, ki so res vzor in stebr v naši skupnosti, če lahko z Maha mantro jih blagoslovimo. Hare Krišna, Hare Krišna, Krišna Krišna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krišna, Hare Krišna, Krišna Krišna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krišna, Hare Krišna, Krišna Krišna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Gopal Chandra in Prema Lata sponzorirata tudi na današnjo pojedino. Če pa kdo želi vseeno, so prispevki dobrodošli. Če kdo danes z nami prvič, imamo receptorko za goste, Somja Datri Mataji, je tu? Ima za vas eno sladko presenečenje. So for those who are with us today for the first time, we have Somya Datri Mataji with a sweet surprise, like a welcome gift ready for you. She's right there at the door, so if you can approach her. To je pa mislim, da to. Se pravi, ob 7 se vrnemo na program plus, zdaj pa še molitev pred našim božanstvom darovano hrano. Pa bi kar skupaj, prosim. tek in dobrodošli ponovno naslednjo nedeljo. Hare Krišna.